Hey Keith, so for the Men of Jehovah, who we're doing this week?
Let's talk about the son of Jonah. Did you know Jonah had a son? Yeah, Jesus was referring to him. He was one of the apostles.
Simeon.
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 Simeon was the son of Jacob. He was one of the 12 sons. And Jesus gave him the nickname Peter, which meant rock, sturdy, or steady. It also is Cephas. He's referred to as Cephas. That's the same description as Peter, but it's in Aramaic. So he's giving you a description of Peter. Jesus didn't change his name to Peter. That was just what he called him as a reference, because there were 2 other Simons as apostles. Most people don't realize that out of the 12, 3 of them were named Simon, which is the Greek form of Simeon, which was one of the children of Jacob. So he was a fisherman, and he fished. He was going out on the Sea of Galilee, and they were harvesting fish, and that was their family business. And Peter and his brother were called. In fact, Andrew was the one who introduced him to Jesus. And Jesus says, I want you to leave your nets and come and follow me, and I will make you a fisher of men instead of this job that you've got here on the boats. And so we see the story of Peter. He wasn't highly educated. He wasn't a religious guy. He wasn't a Hebrew scholar. He wasn't any of that stuff. He was just a man among the people. We knew he could speak Greek and Aramaic because that's the language that he used in his business. He would have had to know that stuff in order to sell his fish to the markets and stuff. But God transformed him into a boastful, hot-tempered fisherman into a spirit-filled, meek disciple. And we have a lot of examples of Peter before the day of Pentecost. And then we see Peter on the day of Pentecost giving a sermon that leads to thousands of people, thousands of men giving their heart and life to the Lord. And it was a change that came about because of the Holy Spirit coming into him. Peter didn't have any special authority. Jesus never told Peter that he was going to be the foundation of the church going forward. Jesus was the rock. Jesus was the cornerstone that the church was going to be built upon. Peter was a good example of what you can be if you let the Holy Spirit work in your life. And he's a good example to all of us, because we all have those type of boastful situations where we say, I'll never deny the Lord. I'll never say bad things about God. And then we see him denying the Lord just to the little maiden girl. It wasn't even a big army guy that was threatening Peter. It was just a maiden while they're standing by the fire trying to stay warm. And then the guard notice blows, and Peter remembers that Jesus said he would do it before the second sounding of the cock crow. It wasn't a rooster, it was the announcement of the guard change, but they still called it that because originally it was the roosters that were announcing the arrival of the sunrise. So anyway, Peter was a very good example. Jesus used him in examples of what we're supposed to do. He asked Peter 3 times, Peter, do you love me? Peter, do you really love me? Peter, how do I know that when you say you love me, that you really do? And it all boiled down to, Peter, I want you to feed my sheep. That's how God knows that we're serious, is if we're doing what he asks us to do. We're making disciples, we're looking after other believers, we're helping them to grow, and that's the example that God used when he was using Peter. He's telling us that's how you know that a person loves the Lord, because of the way they treat the other believers.